We're going to start with words of Hine Matov Umanaim. You can find them on page 10. You can find them on page 70. Your choice. Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Tov Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hinei ma tov Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Let me hear ya. Hinei ma tov umanayim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hinei ma tov Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hinei ma tov Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Bring it home. Hinei ma tov umanayim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim Shevet Anu Kam Yachad.
And so Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are so grateful to have you here on this. Could it be a more perfect Shabbat morning? I don't think so. Welcome to Temple Beth Am. I'm Rabbi Ruth Zlotnick. I'm joined by Rabbi Dana Benson, Andy Stoller. Thank you so much. Thank you to Jamie, who is helping us connect with our friends at home. And we're so grateful that we have two incredible young leaders here. And so Avi and Luca, who they have raised the fist pump to a sacred act. And so maybe as a way of beginning, we'll just welcome one another, if you're comfortable doing it, with a sacred fist pump. So turn to someone and do a sacred cut. And at home, please do that as well.
Oh, there we go. That was a good one.
Yeah. So we are here on Shabbat. We believe that Shabbat morning is an opportunity to just take a nice deep breath in and exhale it and feel that sense of blessing that's all around us. And we're really, really blessed this morning. What a joy. It's so wonderful that we're coming back together in person. We're celebrating Shabbat. We're having Shabbat be made more special because we have incredible young teachers. But we also have teachers in our community who are our friends as well. And we're very grateful that Debbie Maserano will also be participating in several ways in this morning's service. And Debbie, if you will honor us with helping us bring blessings into our life on this morning, that would be great. Debbie will be doing the Nasim B'chol Yom on our blessings for every day on page 80.
Please join me in either Hebrew or English. You can alternate between the two if you'd like. And this gets us started on our 100 blessings every day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shena me'enai utnuma me'af apai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam who has made me one who wrestles with God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And it is our custom here at Temple Beth Am that we add an additional blessing of our own making. So think of something that you are grateful for today. I'll give you a moment. And let's share it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has blessed me with funny, energetic, and super dedicated students.
Amen. Beautiful, Yashikoach. Oh, kol hakavod, kol hakavod. Oh, what a way to start our day, with getting a jump start on the 100 blessings our rabbis invite us to say each day. Because honestly, a blessing is a way of offering gratitude. And if we were just to take time to say 100 gratitudes throughout our day, I don't know, I'd feel like a better person, I'm sure, if I did that. And so we continue on with this theme of blessings and gratitude and joy as we move into our morning service. We turn to page 108 for our call to worship, the words of the Baruch Hu. If you are able, I invite you to rise. Be seated. And while we were blessed with rain in the city of Seattle, I know that's a strange thing for Seattle to be we're considering a blessing. We get a lot of it here. But during this past week, we've had that blessing. But we also, of course, have the beautiful blessing of sunlight this morning. And so it is my honor to invite up Luca, who's going to lead us in our prayer for light this morning, the Yotzer Or, which can be found on page 110.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorei chosheh, Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, Hameir la'aretz, Veladarim aleha berachamim, Uvtuvo mehadesh bikol yom tamid ma'aseh virishit. Ma rebu ma'aseha Adonai, kulam bechochma asita, mala haaretz kinyaneha. Tit barach Adonai Eloheinu, al sheva ma'aseh yadeha, ve'al me'ore or she'asita, yafa arucha selah, or hadash al tztion ta'ir, V'nizkeh kulanu mehera le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hamarot.
Luca will continue to lead us on the next page, 112, in Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava rabbah aftanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hemla gedola vitera, hamalta aleinu, bavor avotenu, ve'imotenu, Shabbat huvecha, avotenu ve'imotenu, Vatelam den hu kehayim, kentechonenu utlam denu, ham rahem, rahem aleinu, veten bili benu lehavin uhaskil, Lishmoa lelamodu lelamed, Lishmor ve'asot, Ulkayem et kol divrei, Talmud Torah teha ba'ahava, Veha erinenu betorah teha, Vedabek libenu b'mitzvoteha, Ve'yahed levavenu la'ahava u'yira et shemeha ve'lo nevosh ve'lo nikalem ve'lo nikashel le'olam va'ed kim beshem Kojaha Hagadol Vahanara Bahavtanu Nagila Venismeha Nagila Venismeha Bishuateha Vehavi Enu Lesholom Me Arban Kanfot Haaretz Vetoli kenu komemiut le'artzenu ki elpo el Yeshuot ata uvanu baharta veken ravtanu lishim ha-hagadol Selah be'emet lehodot leha ul yahedha be'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher b'amor Yisrael be'ahava.
Amen. Yasher Koach.
Thank you.
When we celebrate family and friends, regardless of the occasion, we're taking ourselves out of our everyday life to have that experience, the busyness, the routine. But on Shabbat morning, regardless of if we're here for a B'nai Mitzvah or for Shabbat services, we're choosing actively to take ourselves out of our daily work routines, to be able to find that presence, that peace, that rest, heck, even a sense of love that we do on Shabbat. And so I invite you, before we say the words of the Shema this morning, I invite you to take a deep breath with me so that we really may just lean in to the uniqueness of this day, the uniqueness of getting to experience and be present together for Shabbat. Breathe in. Let's do that again. One more. And with our spirits in that restful place, if it is your custom, I invite you to rise for the Shema. It can be found on pages 114 and 115. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. If you chose this to stand, you may be seated. And it's my honor to invite back up Luca, who's going to help lead us in the words of the Ve'ahavta, more words of love, on page 116.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha ayom alevaveha v'shinatam levaneha v'dibarta bam v'shivteha beveteha Uvleftecha vaderech, uvshopecha uvkumecha, uvtavtam leot al yadeha, vehayu letotafot bein einecha, uktavtam Al mezuzot beiteha uvishareha. Leman tiskeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hid kedoshim lelehem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti ethem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihayot lahem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Beautifully led. Yasher Koach. So instead of applauding or anything like that, we say Yasher Koach with such great strength as our way of congratulating our amazing B'nai Mitzvahs. It always makes me so happy when we have families and individuals together in our community from other places as well. The Ve'ahavta is such a unique and interesting prayer because I find it to be the fingerprint of the Jewish people in many ways. Although we all have the same words which come from the book of Deuteronomy, which we're going to be hearing from today, there are all these little nuances and little shifts and differences. And so when you hear that beautiful tapestry of the Ve'ahavta, it's because of all those little differences, the different fingerprints we each bring to that prayer. It's beautiful. And we continue on with that sense of beauty, with the words of Micha Mocha, the words that our ancestors sang as they went through the splitting seas, that sense of freedom that I know these two young men will feel a little bit later today, and the sense of joy that all of us have in being able to be here together on Shabbat morning. We gather together for Micha Mocha on page 122, and while our custom has been to dance, we're not going to dance around the room, but I highly encourage you to dance in your seats. If you're at home, you have no excuse. So please join, sing, dance, enjoy Micha Mocha with us. Yai dai 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 yai da 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 yai da da yai dai 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 yai da dai 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 yai dai da dai dai yai dai yai da dai yai da dai dai yai da da dai. Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha ne'etar b'kodesh. Norah tehilot osef eleh. Norah tehilot osef eleh. Shir ha'chadasha shibchu ge'ulim. Leshimcha l'sfat hayam. Yachad kulam hodu. Ve'himlichu ve'amru. Adonai iloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai iloch le'olam va'ed. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha ne'etar b'kodesh. Norah tehilot osef eleh. Norah tehilot osef eleh. One more time, yai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai, yai da 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 da. Yai dai dai dai, yai da 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 da. Yai dai da da da, yai dai yai da da. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Thank you for those of you I saw dancing. And so with our hearts filled with that spirit and a little bit of ruach, a little bit of spirit and energy, we continue in our service with the words of the Amidah. And it's my honor to invite forward our other bar mitzvah this morning, Avi Charlton, who's going to be leading us in the Amidah. It starts on page 124. If you are able, I invite you to rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah. Ha-El Hagadol, Hagibor, Vahanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Vikone, Hakol Vizoher, Haste, Avot Vimahot, Ume Viga Ula, Livne Venehem, Lema Anshimo, Be'ahava. Melech Ozer, Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayecha Kol Atah Rav Lechoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechal Kal Hayim Behesed, Mechaye ha-kol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofe holim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishene afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidom Elah, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Vene'eman, Atah Lechachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol.
We continue on page 130 with the Kedusha, the sanctification. Nekadesh et shimcha va'olam, keshem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom, kakatuv aliyad neviecha, vekara ze el ze ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Meloch ol haaretz, kevodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir Shimcha, B'chol haaretz, Baruch kevod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, lehu Yashmienu, berachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Tzion, ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, v'shivhacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el HaKadosh. And now Avi will continue to lead us on page 134, the Kedushat Hayom.
v'imnuchatenu kachenu v'mitzvotecha v'tenhelkenu b'toratecha sabenu mituvecha v'samchenu b'shuatecha v'taher libenu Ovdecha be'emet v'chan hilenu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava uratzon Shabbat kodecha v'chahu Yisrael Mekadeshei Shemecha Baruch Ata Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Yasha Koach. Thank you, Avi. And Avi just shared with us the Kiddushat Hayom. Oh, I know why. Avi just shared with us the Kiddushat Hayom. Kiddushat, Kiddusha, that sense of holiness, that sense, what do we mean by that? That sense that we are in a space unlike any other, one filled with meaning and blessing. We'll take the remainder of this prayer in silence, perhaps guided by the words on the page through page 142 or by the still small voice. When your personal prayer is done, please feel free to be seated, and we'll conclude with music. to take joy in Shabbat, and I think we've done that so far this morning, will really be able to call it Shabbos. You'll really be able to understand why we gather together. And in many ways, we do that as a community, as a congregation together for this moment right now, the Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for reading Torah. It's at this moment when we take the words of our ancestors and we bring them into our hearts and our lives. And some Shabbatot are made even more special because those words of Torah come out of the mouths of our young people. So it is at this moment when a young person finds their place in our chain of tradition, as Avi and Luca will do this morning. In just a few moments to begin this service for reading Torah, we will invite the generations before them as a way of recognizing that they are now taking hold of Torah for themselves. But we strongly believe that Shabbat is Shabbat is Shabbat, and it is not just this moment for these special families. It's a moment for us as a community to take joy together, for us as a community to help shape Luca and Avi's lives. And so to do that, we are enhancing, I just have to find it. We're enhancing a ritual that we began during the pandemic. The interesting thing about the pandemic, of course, is that it made us rethink how we want to do things. You know, we had to adjust. And one of the added benefits of being on Zoom for all those months was we didn't know how to have a congregant help participate. And so we thought, what a wonderful way to offer blessings at the beginning of the service for reading Torah from the congregation as a recognition that Luca and Avi are finding their place in our community as a way to help continue to pass Torah on. So we have a beautiful blessing that we've also transferred to our service once we started in person again. But today we're enhancing that. And I can't think of a better person to initiate this with than Debbie Maserano, our friend and our teacher. Not only will Debbie share the blessing of our congregation to the two students before us, but then Debbie, and each Shabbat hereafter, when a young person is called to Torah, we will have a member of our congregation as part of the passing down ceremony as a way of symbolizing that you are a part of the chain of tradition that leads to Avi and to Luca. And so will you please share that blessing with us now?
Thank you. We thank God for the gift of Torah and for the wondrous opportunity to share it with a new generation. Today, you, Luca and Avi, ensure the continuation of the legacy of Moshe and Miriam, who first taught Torah to our people. As we prepare to hand the Torah to you now, it is our hope that just as you will carry it in your hands today, you will also carry it within your heart always as a perpetual expression of faith in God and commitment to your people.
Amen. And if you'll have a seat, because now it is such an honor to invite the generations, folks in the grandparental and parental line who precede Avi and Luca. I'd like to invite Luca's grandparents, Stephen Schwartz, Joan Timby, Richard Timby, Tom and Martha Osratich. I know how to say that name, it's just being up here. And of course, Avi's grandparents, Wendy and Elias Dickerman and Connie and Milton Charlton. We'll continue with our Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our service for reading Torah, on page 244. Please rise in body or in spirit. Okay, you'll stand over here.
Oh, sorry.
And you'll stand shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, we do.
Shoulder to shoulder. And if you'll just take a few steps down.
Ein kemocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor
Luca. Yesterday, we were standing with just sort of like this, and I mentioned to you that you are going to look out and see people who love you from all parts of your lives, and yet we don't even hear a bird chirp, because our tradition teaches us that Luca and Avi, at this very moment, we are continuing that moment at Mount Sinai when the Holy One, with love and faith, gave us this Torah as words to live by. And so, dor lador, from generation to generation, this Torah has been passed. We've celebrated with it during times of joy and used it as comfort in times of sorrow. And now, Luca and Avi, in this moment, we give you this Torah with the same love and faith with which it was given to our ancestors all those years ago.
We say the words of the Shema together as these wonderful students hold Torah in their hands. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
An honor to invite Charles Dickerman and Bernie Charlton up, who will help us undress the Torah.
Al Shlosha Devarim.
Oh, no.
Al Shlosha Devarim.
If you'll take
Al
just the silver
Shlosha,
and put it on the
Shlosha
little table over there.
Devarim. Ha'olam, ha'olam,
take the
omed. Al
put it next to those
Shlosha
over there.
Devarim.
Thank you.
Al Shlosha
And then if you'll take the
Devarim.
cover off and just hold it.
Al Shlosha Devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam, omed.
Now you can give Avi a
Al
word just
ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al Shlosha Devarim, you may be seated. Al Shlosha Devarim. Al Shlosha Devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam, omed.
Al Shlosha Devarim, on three things, three words. This word devar has so much resonance in Hebrew. And in fact, this week's Torah portion is called Devarim, as you will hear from our incredible teachers this morning. It is the first book of the book of Deuteronomy, and it's the first book of the final move towards the promised land. And so to help set us up to be in the right frame of mind to receive Torah, it is such an honor to invite Avi forward to share the words of his Torah, his Devar Torah.
In this Torah portion, Moses is trying to lead the Israelites. He has led them to the He has led them to the border of the land that they are going into. Moses knows he's not going into the land with them. Moses is trying to share his wisdom with the Israelites so that they can be knowledgeable about the things he knows very well. In Deuteronomy, Moses says, "Hear out your fellow Israelites and decide justly between anyone, a fellow Israelite and a stranger. You shall not be partial in judgment. Hear out low and high alike. Fear no one, for judgment is God's. Any matter that is too difficult for you, you shall bring it to me, and I will hear it." I want to focus on justice and equality. In court, judges should be fair and have good judgment for fair decisions. Torah is very specific. We have to judge everyone equally. If we judge one person differently than another, then that's not fair judging. The early rabbis compared the responsibility of judging to fire. They said, "If you come too close, you will be burnt. If you stray too far, you will be cold." The art of making judgments is in finding the right distance. Number one, justice happens not only in court, but in other places too. 2, I play a lot of video games. In the video game Skyblock, there is a justice system implemented that makes sure that the game quality is fair so everyone can enjoy the game. People don't have an advantage over other players. If someone were to use something that gives an unfair advantage, that's breaking the rules. In this game, justice doesn't happen immediately. Other players first have to report players they think are breaking the rules. And if the staff determines that person is breaking the rule, then they're suspended from the game for a certain time. The staff monitors the game and sees both parties, the person who is reporting someone's behavior and also the person who was reported, and sees why they should have a suspension for some reason. If there's insufficient evidence, then they most likely won't get suspended. In Torah, the Israelites brought their conflicts to Moses. Just like in Torah, in Skyblock, if you can't solve the problem and make someone else stop doing something that isn't good, you have to bring in a higher authority that can resolve that problem. In this case, being too close to the fire, as the rabbis described, is like saying, "Oh, they got reported, therefore they should be punished." Being too far is like saying, "Oh, I don't feel like doing this, it doesn't really matter." The sweet spot, seeing why they got reported, why they should receive a consequence for their actions, and enforce the suspension if needed. I hope people can learn from my Torah portion that sometimes in real life, justice doesn't happen immediately. If we see problems, we can seek justice by bringing in the right authorities.
Yasher koach. Avi, I've told you this before, but I just love your interpretation of this week's Torah portion, not only because it helps me think differently about justice, but also I learned a whole part of the gaming world that I did not know. And so I thank you for being my teacher in many different ways this morning. Along with sharing the actual blessing of giving Torah to the next community, Debbie will play the role of our Gabbai, our assistant to our Torah readers this morning, Avi and Luca. And as I shared, they will be chanting from the very first book of the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, beginning on verse 24. If you're following along at home, we recommend going to Sefaria.com and putting in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 24. And if you have a Plout commentary, thank you so much, Ronnie, for bringing some more in. If you'd like a commentary, just raise your hand. Avi's going to begin chanting on page 1319. Again, that's chapter 1, verse 24. I will hold on to it. There you go. And this is a particular honor. I like to say that family is a verb. Family are the people we choose to be most close with. And sometimes we're lucky enough to be biologically connected to family, and sometimes our souls are simply connected to family. So it is an honor for the first Aliyah to introduce Davida Sims and Miles and Cole Sims, who are a chosen family to the Charltons, as well as a beloved family of Temple Beth Am, to come on up for the first Aliyah.
יעמדו רבקה בת גבריאל ומתוק בן רבקה וזמיר בן רבקה לעלייה ראשונה.
Hey, Miles. Okay. Oh, my God.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamivrach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vayifnu, vaya'alu ha'hara, vayavo'u ad nahal eshkol, vayaraglu otah, vayikhu v'yadam mipri ha'aretz, vayoridu elenu, vayashivu otanu davar, vayomru tova ha'aretz, asher Adonai Eloheinu noten lanu. V'lo avitem la'alot v'tamru et pi Adonai Elohechem v'teragnu be'ocholechem v'tamru b'sinat Adonai otanu hotianu me'eretz Mitzrayim atet otanu beyad ha'emorihi lehahashmidenu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah et met v'chei olam natan botochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Do we get a hug? Do we get a hug? We gotta do hugs.
Or fist pump or whatever it's going to make you guys. No, it's all hugs all the time. Thank you so much. Yasher koach to all of you. And now, Avi Charlton, it is an honor to call you up for the very first time as a bar mitzvah, and I think that your mom and dad might want to join you for that moment. So Gabby and Dan, come on up as we call Avi to Torah as a bar mitzvah.
Hakol havu godel Eloheinu utnu kavod Torah ya'amod habar mitzvah Avi David ben Gavriat Ziva Tzipora v'Daniel Shmuel le'aliyah shniya.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvara.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvara le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Anachnu olim acheinu hemasu et levavenu lemor am gadol varam mimenu arim gedolot uvtsurot bashamayim v'gam b'nei anakim ra'inu sham ve'omar alechem, la ta'artzun velo tir'un mechem. Adonai Elohechem chacholech lifnechem hu yilachem lachem kechol asher asa itchem b'mitzrayim le'enechem uvamidbar asher ra'ita asher nasa'acha Adonai Elohecha ka'asher asa Yisaish et beno bechol chadera asher chelchetem et ad boachem ad hamakom hazeh.
Yasher koach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Avi, what a joy and a blessing you've been to us this morning. The way you taught Torah, the way you chanted Torah so beautifully. But I know for your mom and dad, you've been a blessing from the moment that you were born. And I think we're looking for the words of blessing, and we have them. And so this is a particularly auspicious moment. The Torah is open. And it's a particularly auspicious time for a mother and a father to share words of blessing with their son. Just be nice and close.
Avi, we are so proud of you. You know, we chose your Hebrew name, Avi David, for two of your great-grandparents, Grandma's mom, Avis, and Grandpa's dad, David. Avis and David were both pioneers in their own way. Avis graduated from law school at a time when few women did. And along the way, she dealt with all of the challenges of a woman entering a man's world. David left behind his home of Romania in search of safety and a better life in South and Central America, and in the process had to learn new languages and acclimate to new cultures. May you have their courage and persistence as you continue life's journey. May your friendships nurture you through things as simple as an ultimate Frisbee game to life's big moments like today.
May you always seek justice and strive to do the right thing, whether it be in the world of Minecraft or the world around you. May you always be curious. May you always find humor in life and yourself. And most importantly, may you always remember that bird is a verb.
And so all good blessings end with an amen. And you can have a seat, and you all can have a seat. Mazel tov to one and all. And in addition to feeling like being in the presence of Torah adds and enhances the blessings of a parent to a child, we also take this moment for communal blessings, particularly the blessing of healing. And so we know that some of you walked through the door of the sanctuary this morning in pain or with love for someone who's in pain. And we'd like to give you the opportunity to add their names to our prayer for healing. As we do so, of course, we think about all those in war zones around the world, all those impacted by gun violence in our country or injustice of any kind. And particularly this week, we're thinking about those who have been impacted by the floods in Kentucky. And please add your name if you have one. And we also add to those names the names of anyone that you at home want to add as well, as we continue with our Misher Beirach Lecholim, our prayer for healing. It is on page 253.
Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor Havracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bisheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May each and every person we named know a full and speedy recovery of body and of soul. Amen. And now, Rabbi Dana, if you'll just help me move the Torah ever so, if you'll hold on to this. The reason we are doing this is because we're going to take a moment in between the chanting of Torah to receive more wisdom of Torah, to hear more about the Torah that comes from the soul of our young teachers and leaders. And so it is such an honor, Luca, to invite you back to the
Podium to share your words of Torah, your Devar Torah.
Today's Torah portion, Parshat Devarim, is about faith being tested, which is shown many times. This portion is the very first chapter of the last book of Torah, Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy is basically Moses on his deathbed, retelling what's been happening for the last 40 years with all the Jews. When Moses tells his version of the story, it's actually different than what was told in the previous readings of the Torah. In my opinion, the point isn't about who is right or wrong about what happened. Instead, this difference could be trying to teach us a lesson about faith. In his version of the story, Moses is talking about how the Jewish people want to scout out Israel before going in, because they don't trust God and think it could be dangerous. That is unlike the previous telling in the book of Numbers, which says that God told them to send the scouts to see how plentiful the land was. In the end, God does not let Moses and the people go into Israel because they do not have faith. I think Moses wants to blame the lack of faith on the Jewish people instead of himself. What does this teach us about faith? This lesson is supposed to teach us to always have faith, even in difficult moments. The Israelites didn't have trust in God, and therefore they suffered. Rabbi David Foreman teaches us that there are 3 pillars to faith. The first one being empathy. Empathy, that whoever you are trusting cares about you. The second pillar is power. Power is a notion that whoever you are trusting has the power to help you. The third pillar is understanding. That means whoever you are giving your faith to can truly understand what your needs are. This tells us that there is not just one part of faith, but it is layered, based on experiences and actions. In this Torah portion, the Jewish people were responsible for their actions. They were given all 3 pillars of faith to build on, but chose not to trust God. Now I want to ask you all, what does faith mean to you? What would you do if you were in the position of the Jewish people? Take a moment to think about it. In the dictionary, it says that faith is complete trust in something or someone. But I think faith can be interpreted in many ways and is different from person to person. In my experience, faith comes up often in my life. One example is in the game of Ultimate Frisbee, a game that I really love. Ultimate is a game where you need to have complete faith in yourself, your teammates, and your coaches, even if the other team is winning. You must trust that your teammates have your back, otherwise it will always end badly. My coach once told me, you have to forget about the last play and focus on the next one. My coach's advice connects to the theme of faith because it is saying to always believe that you can overcome challenges with those around you, even in hard times. Historically, the Jewish people have needed to keep faith in the darkest of times, such as the Holocaust. I can't fathom how hard it was to keep faith in such a horrible environment. This lesson also applies to our broader society today. Currently, for example, we have to keep our faith that everything will be okay in Ukraine. Although sometimes it feels like there is nothing we can do, there is. We must speak out for injustices, vote for leaders that share our values, and help people affected by conflicts both locally and globally. I hope you can agree that we can learn from this Torah portion that it is always good to have faith. While faith in God is not required, it's always good to have faith in yourself, your community, and the people around you. In this complicated world, I believe we need to keep faith and trust in each other that together we can make the world a better place.
Yasher Koach. Beautiful. Again, not just because I learned more about Ultimate Frisbee than I knew, but really it's so hard to talk about faith in our world, and you did so with so much relevance and wisdom. Thank you, Luca. And so we are going to reopen Torah so that we can hear how you derive that incredible lesson from this week's Torah portion through your chanting. Luca will be picking up where his partner Avi left off in Deuteronomy chapter 1, beginning with verse 32. Again, for those of you at home, that's Deuteronomy 1, chapter 1, verse 32. If you're following along in Plout, it's right there on page 1319. And so, as long as you ready, Luca? You're good? Fantastic. Once again, we thank our Gabbai, Debbie, and it is such an honor to invite back to this podium someone whose bat mitzvah I remember very well, Ruby, your sister, as well as your Uncle Marty and your Aunt Linda.
Ya'amdu ruach rachalai batrina leah ve'erik ve'menashe Ezra ve'levi gela le'aliyah shlishim.
And if you'll come over here. And Ruby, if you want to hold that so everyone can see it. And you can come nice and close. Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen.
Uvadavar hazeh einhem ma'amenim ba'Adonai Elohechem ha'holeh lifnehem v'dereh lator lahem makom lahanotchem ba'esh laila layotem ba'derech asher telchuva uva'anan yomam vayishama Adonai et kol divrehem vayikso vayishava lemor imir et ish ba'anoshim ha'ele hador hara hazeh et haaretz hatova asher nishbati letem la'avotehem.
Beautiful. Yasher Koach.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata v'tolcheinu Baruch Atah Adonai
Amen. And now you can give Luca a little hug, fist pump, whatever your family's sacred connection is, as we say, Mazel Tov. And you may be seated. And now, Luca, it will be our time to call you to Torah for the very first time as a bar mitzvah. Before we do that, though, I think, I'm guessing Aaron and Eric, your mom and dad, may want to stand by your side as we're calling you bar mitzvah for the very first time.
Hakol havu godel Eloheinu, utnu kavod leTorah, ya'amod habar mitzvah, lev simcha ben Rina Leah ve'Eric le'Aliyah Revi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvara.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Zulati Kalev bin Yefune Hu Yir'ena Vile eten et haaretz asher darachva u'avana ya asher mileh ahare Adonai Gambi hit anaf Adonai biglalchem lamor Gam ata lo tavo sham Yehoshua bin Nun ha'omed lefaneha hu yavo shama oto varaz kin hu Yeholenu et Yisrael v'tachem asher amartem lavaz yeh Velechem asher lo yad'u hayam tov varaz hema yavo shama velahem et nena vehem Yeroshua.
Yasher koach. And one more.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. We didn't even get to the blessing yet, Aaron.
Sorry.
Oh, nothing to be sorry. Go give him another one before, too.
We have something we have to do, Twizzy.
So this is a perfect time, but you'll want to get closer to the mic, actually. And Luca, maybe you want to move closer to your parents.
Thank you.
And we'll say these words of blessing.
Luca, we love you, and we are so proud. And more importantly, you should be so proud of yourself. These past few years have been challenging in the world, and it's our community that has gotten us through it. So many people in this room today helped us and helped you. In turn, you helped us grow closer to our community. Thank you for inspiring this moment and for all that you did to prepare, practice, and mentally ready yourself to lead us today. We know it wasn't easy, and we are proud of all your efforts. Sorry.
Luca. When we think of you, we think of someone in motion with deep emotions. You are highly compassionate, bright, and a loving human being. And that compassion for yourself and others is truly valuable. Through the years, we have had some of our best conversations with you in motion, when driving, walking, running, skiing, and playing Frisbee. I remember when you were 9 years old and determined to make 100 baskets. You spent hours at the hoop in front of our house and made it happen. Similarly, when learning to play ultimate Frisbee, you displayed determination and tenacity.
And it's with that very same determination that I saw you studying for your bar mitzvah today. You are a loving person who cares deeply. You are a deep thinker with great strength. You are highly ethical, and you stand up for what you believe in. You take good care of yourself and the others around you, especially those who are younger and more vulnerable. You are observant and wise. You are also quick-witted and strategic, as well as extremely persistent and persuasive.
Trying to find Leanne. Luca, our blessing for you is that you bring your motion and your emotion with you as you move forward. May you give love freely and take it in just as liberally. May you use your personal power to help yourself and others around you. May you use your ethics and quick wit alongside your compassion to make the world a fairer and more just place for everyone. May you use your wisdom and insight to inspire and create social change. May you create community for yourself wherever you go and take strength from it. Mazel tov, we love you.
Oh. Or amen. That's probably more appropriate. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And the secret handshake. Oh, and so with that joy, that sense of such joy and simcha and blessing of love, of all these moments we have here together, just have culminated in this Torah experience. It's my honor now to invite up a few more honors. Hey, honor to honor. Come on up, Marty Schwartz, again, Luca's uncle, and then Lindsay and Gideon Sanders. Come on up. You're going to help us with dressing the Torah. Also, Hannah and Ruby, Luca and Avi's sisters, are going to help us with opening the ark. I invite you to rise as we lift Torah and return it as well. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai veyad Moshe. Eitzayim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomchecha meushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Are hired as a permanent ark openers. Please be seated. Thank you all. If you want to give your brother a hug, you can, Hannah. And so you can give your respective loved ones a hug, whoever it belongs to, whomever. And now I know it feels like you should be able to relax a little bit, gentlemen, but not quite yet, because it is time for you to just share Haftarah with us. Haftarah, I remember when I was a kid in synagogue, I would think that it sounded like half Torah. It was like, we have to go through half of the Torah now, but it doesn't. It's from the word for additional, and we read additional sacred texts each Shabbat morning from the middle section known as Nevi'im, or prophets. And we are today going to hear from the very first chapter of the book of Isaiah. And so Luca will begin by chanting from the words of Isaiah chapter 1, starting with verse 16. And if you'd like to follow along in the Plout, that's 1592. And the blessings begin on page 254. And when you're ready, you can begin.
Marim ba'emet, Baruch atah Adonai, Haboher b'Torah, Uv Moshem avdo, Uv Yisrael amo, Uvim v'eh ha'emet, Rat tzedek. Rahatzu hizaku, Hasiru, Roa ma'alelehem, mineged ena, Hidlu hare'ah. Limdu hetev, dirshu mishpat, ashru hamo, shivtu yatom, rivu almanam.
Lechuna v'nivachecha Yomar Adonai Im yechiyu chata'echem kashanim kasheleg yalbinu Im yadimu katola katzemer yechiyu Im tovu ushmatem tuv ha'eretz tochelu Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam tzor kol ha'olamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'mdaber kayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu varchim ota anachnu modim lach varchim ota yitbarach shimcha befi kol hai tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Now, if you guys wanted to take, totally a fist pump. And in fact, I'm going to invite, I don't know if you two remember, but you can leave your books there, and if you'll just face Rabbi Dana and I. But I feel like we did something, a very sacred act right before we came on the Bima. I hope it's okay with everyone, I'm sharing it. At the very last minute, we did a sacred rock, paper, scissors, and something extraordinary happened. All four of us did scissors. And so I'm going to say, let's do a joint fist pumps, because we're never going to recreate that. Because this is the moment, Luca, this is the moment, Avi, when Rabbi Dana and I have the great honor on behalf of everyone who is gathered here, whether here in the sanctuary or at home, to offer you words of blessing. And what I'd like to remind you is about our very first meeting, when all of us met, your family and me, and I asked you, How are you feeling about becoming bar mitzvah? And each of you, in your own inimitable way, suggested that you didn't think it was really going to happen. That it really, you weren't quite sure how you would get to this moment. And here you did, not just through all of the hard work that your parents rightfully praised you for, but also I think through exploring your own depths and your own resilience. And here you are today, and I know that you recognize that you becoming bar mitzvah isn't a one-time event. It's not something that's just happening here today, but that you, Luca, and you, Avi, for the rest of your lives, wherever you go, whatever you do, you will be a bar mitzvah. You will be holding on to the tradition that you have taken inside yourselves now. And what I want to say to you is that it's okay to have those doubts that you had at the beginning of the journey, and that what I hope you realize, though, is all that you accomplished, but not just for yourselves, not even just for your families, but for our congregation, the way you brought Torah to us. Please know you have gifts that only you can bring into this world, and this world needs you. The Jewish community needs you, and our community is so grateful for the presence and the blessings that you have brought to us. So because of that, Rabbi Dana and I have the great honor of offering the oldest words of blessing in our tradition, the priestly benediction.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Avi, Luca, may God bless and keep you always.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
And may the light of the divine that comes forth from you shine upon you and always be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom.
And Luca, Avi, as you move forth on this Jewish journey of yours, as you enter into this world as a bar mitzvah, may you know that God is always with you, and may God always, always bless you with peace. And let us say, Amen. Kenya Hiratzon. I'm going to ask you two to open up the ark for us as we continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach at the top of page 282. Please rise if you are able.
Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol Latet Gedula Leotze Breshit Shehu Noteh Shamayim Vayoset Haaretz Umoshav Yekarov Bashamayim Mima'al Ushchinat Uzo Begovhei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Einod Va'anachnu Korim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 287 V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai L'melech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'shemo 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 Echad.
Please be seated. In just a moment, we'll conclude our Shabbat morning services, but we believe that what adds to that sense of Kedusha, that sense of holiness or sacredness, is the act of memory. Memory is part of what brings meaning to our lives. And so on this very special Shabbat morning, Avi's family would like to remember these loved ones: David and Sylvia Dickerman, Avis and Charles Walton, Harry and Sophie Kasdan, and Merle and Austin Charlton. And Luca's family would like to remember these loved ones: Ida and Louis Schwartz, Rosalie and Louis Rabinowitz, Ruth and Sydney Saul, and Bob and Pat Osritich. In addition, our community is remembering Betty Sussman, who died in the last month. Betty was a founding member of Temple Beth Am, a mother of 4, grandmother of 28, great-grandmother of 68, and great-great-grandmother of 4. We'd also like to remember those who lost their lives in the Kentucky floods of this past week, as well as those who have died in war zones around the world or at the hands of injustice. In addition, our community is remembering these loved ones whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of their death, falls at this time. Genya Botgersh, Luba Anelik, Esther Arnsberg, Joseph Berg, Julian Bernson, Tanya Tarones, Marshall Dick, Andrew Greendorfer, Anita Greenstein, Robert Katz, Louis Koretz, Jean Laboff, Marion Lieberman, Eduardo Peru, Yaakov Naor, Florence Newborn, Louis Newman, William Rose, Douglas Spencer, and Frida Tonkin. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to share the name of anyone you're thinking of at this time of Kaddish, our prayer for mourning. In addition to the names that we've said out loud here in the sanctuary, we invite you at home to share names out loud, as I invite anyone who's lost a loved one in the last week to rise, or the last month, or the last year. And anyone who's here this morning commemorating a yahrzeit. We take note of those and we rise as one community to show solidarity for the memory of those who love to help keep their legacy alive. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, Bialma divra chirute v'amlik malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dekol Beit Yisrael, bagala ubisman kari v'yimru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarak Le'olam Almei Almaya Yit Barak V'Yish Tabak V'Yit Pa'ar V'Yit Ramam V'Yit Naseh V'Yit Hadar V'Yit Halev V'Yit Halal Shmei Dekudasha Brechu Le'ela Min Kol Ta V'Shirata Tush Bechata V'Nechemata Damiran Bialma V'Yimru Amen Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. Zikronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. Please be seated. And I am wondering if President Greg Berkman would like to come forward. This is truly at the last minute, so I can feed you the information because we don't have, but we are giving prayer books and Kiddush cups, and so you can just say a few words of congratulations. So gentlemen, why don't you come forward? This is the true test of a presidency, when you show up at services and you're not even told by your rabbi that you're going to be making.
Oh, I guess this was going to happen. So just a couple of small gifts from the board of Temple Beth Am to you. Sometimes we get worried when we're trying to run the business of the synagogue. It's been a tough couple years, but with future leaders like the two of you coming up, I think we've got it well in hand. So on the doorposts of your house, prayers and ceremonies for the Jewish home. Believe it or not, you will consult this at some point in your life. And a couple of Kiddush cups, which we hope you'll use as you create rituals of your own at home.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And maybe one day you too will become president of your congregation. Thank you, Greg. And in addition, I promise we have some B'nai Mitzvah certificates, which will pay testimony to the fact that you did do all the work that you did here this morning. And we can't wait to continue to learn and be led by you in prayer. So a huge thank you to all of you who joined us, whether at home or here in the community. It can't be Shabbat unless we're here together. We say thank you to Jamie. Thank you to our incredible facilities. Thank you to Andy. Thank you to Ronnie and to Elizabeth. And we can show our thanks particularly to our Shamashim folks if we take our prayer books back and put them on the cart. But that can only happen when we do one last thing, which is sweeten this day with brachot. So I want to say thank you also to Rabbi Dana, but mostly thank you to Avi and to Luca. And we're going to make you work one more time by doing our blessings. The Kiddush is on page 301. We can take this out. Avi, you'll let us know. Avi was very clear last night that we did not put grape juice in the Kiddush cup. He was 100% right, and here's hoping it's grape juice this morning. Okay, let's... all right. Avi. All right, let us sweeten this day with the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim, enjoy.
Amen. L'chaim.
Whatever it is, enjoy.
This one is
There will be a grape juice tasting at the Kiddush lunch right after, but we won't be able to have that lunch unless you gentlemen each take a challah in your hands and offer words of blessing so that we can enjoy that Kiddush lunch and celebration. So each of you can take one. We used to do this arm in arm, but we live in these days. So we invite you to just sort of, if you want to put your arm around, that's your choice. But we're inviting also elbow touching as a way of recognizing that we are all interconnected in blessing. We look forward to seeing all of you at the lunch as together we sing the Hamotzi.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
And you can take a bite and put it back there. And Rabbi Dana, what's our closing song?
We're going to close with words of Oseh Shalom. And so you can find them on the bottom of the page we were just on. You can find them in your heart. But sing along with us if you know it. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yoshei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al Amen. Shabbat shalom. Yasher kochachem.